This is the new Tesla Model 3. And Tesla have made a huge range of changes to the car to make it more luxurious and comfortable to drive. But have they worked? Well, I'm going to drive it right now to find out. And I'm even going to use a bit of science to find out if Tesla are telling the truth. Buy, sell,
car. Wow.
I'm actually starting off this review in the old Tesla Model 3 long range. And what I'm doing is just remembering what this car feels like to drive. So taking in the noise levels, taking in what it feels like through my bottom to work out how good the suspension is or isn't. It's very interesting. Tesla has been quite critical of its own suspension in the Model 3. Well, I say they've been critical for the launch of this new Model 3. Obviously, when they launched this car, they weren't going, oh, the suspension is a little bit kind of uncomfortable and fidgety. You know, they wanted people to buy the car. But changes that they've made based on customer feedback is that the suspension could do with a little bit of smoothing out. Customers also wanted the cars to be a bit quieter, so less road noise, less wind noise. So we'll see. Just remembering, taking it in, and then I'm going to do some comparisons to the new car. Anyway, I think that's enough subjective testing. Let's try and do some objective testing. So I'm actually going to jump into the back because apparently it was passengers in the rear of this car that really complained about the noise levels and the suspension being a little bit fidgety over rougher surfaces. Okay, so I'm now in the back seat. I've got a sound meter on my phone. Lewis, the cameraman, is driving and he's going to cruise along this stretch of road at the speed limit, which is 70 kilometers an hour. And we're going to find out how many decibels we get. So I'll just place this down here and shut the up. Right, there we go. Got the results. The sound meter is averaging around 77, 78 decibels at 70 kilometers an hour. Now we're going to check out the comfort levels. Okay, now we're on a stretch of road which is cobbled, and this will really test the car's ability to deal with high frequency bumps. There's also a few drains on our route, and they'll check out what the car's like at the bigger bumps. So I'm going to start the vibrometer and we're going to measure what this car actually does, and we're going to drive down here at 30 kilometers an hour. So let me just start this off. Here we go. And Lewis, if you'd start driving, and I'll put this down there. A little bit of a shock there. And there went up to 6. And on these cobbles it's averaging just over 5. There's another bump. Oh God, it made me sneeze. Right, there we go. It's going over 6 occasionally over the bigger bumps, but hovering just over 5. Right, we have some baselines there with which we can compare the new car. So now I'm going to hop in to the new Tesla Model 3. I've got a Tesla Model 3 long range. It's on 18-inch alloy wheels like the old car that I was driving. That was actually a 2019 car, so it didn't have acoustic glass on the front windows like the very latest previous generation Model 3. This one has it on the front and rear windows, so that should improve comfort. They've also made a load of changes to the suspension, the springs, the dampers, the way the suspension is mounted to the car, the bushings, to hopefully make it more comfortable. But let's see. So here we go. Obviously there is no stalk to put into drive. I now swipe that forward. And then to indicate there's no stalk, we've got the new Tesla Model 3 steering wheel here, so I have to press this button. Don't like indicators on the steering wheel. It has haptic feedback, and actually, do you know what? It feels like a real button. In a Model S and a Model X, when you press the button, the steering wheel vibrates to let you know that you've pressed it. Here, the actual button vibrates. And while this panel isn't really moving, the way they've done the haptic feedback is so good, it feels like a normal button. There's the door button, which is a real button. This is almost halfway there in terms of the feel. And it's not like the system that you get in like a Mercedes EQ car with the haptic feedback, touch sensitive buttons on the steering wheel, which are all too easy to just accidentally engage. This feels a lot better. Though I would prefer a stalk still. Not gonna lie to you. Wish they hadn't got rid of the stalk. But at least I've got the horn now here. Wait a minute. I know this is a loud horn on the outside, but I'm not hearing it so much on the inside, so this soundproofing Already I can tell that it's improved over the old car. I probably shouldn't honk the horn again because there's maybe some fine in Norway for like honking your horn unnecessarily. I know there is in the UK, but they're pretty strict on car rules here. In fact, if I get caught speeding here, apparently the fine will be 1 month's salary. How would I pay my mortgage for that month? Anyway, let's go. See that? I was looking for a stalk to indicate to go around the roundabout. See if it'll disengage when yeah, it disengages. So you've got the cameras just there like on the old Model 3, which is showing me my blind spot, which is really good. Let's just try the lights. There we go, the lights. Touch sensitive button and the windscreen. Even that's quiet. Listen. Now we're going past a building site here. There's some banging going on, but it wasn't too intrusive. Once again, that's all the soundproofing doing its job. And one thing I always found with the Model 3 was that you got quite a bit of tyre noise just when you're coasting about, but it does seem more suppressed in this new car. Let's try the suspension out over that drain cover. It's all right. Let's just get a little second opinion. Lewis, cameraman Lewis is with me. It's quieter, isn't it?
Restricted zone reached.
That'll be our drone on the car in front talking to us. In case you're wondering, that's how we film some of these driving shots.
It's definitely quieter.
It's definitely quieter. Yeah, this is more relaxing. I can say that already. I would like to put autopilot on, but this has the very latest autopilot system and the software hasn't been engaged on this particular car because it's a pre-production model. And we're also driving on like manufacturer plates, which means we've got to stick to the route that we've been given for legal reasons here in Norway. Well, so Tesla say. Oh, hello, cheeky. There are a lot of electric cars here in Norway, a lot of them. I'm really glad that they pulled right in front of us there and just totally knackered our driving shots. Thanks, couldn't wait to go behind. Please go straight on at the next roundabout because we've got to go right. Interesting, they've got a towing bar there on their electric car. Electric cars aren't as good as diesel cars for towing. Good they went the other way. One thing I do like about Teslas is that you do have proper one-pedal driving. It will stop the car eventually if you lift off the accelerator. It's all very intuitive. They haven't changed that. One thing I wish they had changed is where the speedo is. Like on the old Model 3, it's just up here. It's just not an ideal position. Much better to have it straight in front of you. And really, this car could absolutely 100% do with a heads-up display. It'd be perfect. You got that low dash, it'd be brilliant to just have it there. So driving down this road, it's quite a rough surface, getting a bit of road noise from those tyres, but I think it's better than on the previous car. Is it quite as quiet as a Mercedes EQE? I'd have to back them. It's close. Now we're doing about 70 kilometers an hour. I'm not really hearing any wind noise yet at all. Now, one of the things they've done to this car is alter the shape of the bonnet and flick it up at the very last part of the bonnet to send the wind in a smoother way over the windscreen. And it seems to have done the job. Just a little bit coming in now from around here. I mean, subjectively, this car does just seem quieter. It feels a little bit more comfortable. They have moved it on. I'd really like a bit more of an opportunity to test out the suspension. These roads are really rather smooth and good. A lot better than what they would be in the UK. I'm just going over a little expansion joint there, going over that bridge. And sometimes you get like a bit of a thwacking sound from the suspension when you go over those. That's the speed warning again. Now I can disable that, but considering the cost of getting caught speeding, I think I'm going to leave it on. Oops. It's actually quite easy to maintain your speed and kind of control your speed in this Model 3. The throttle pedal's well judged, even though if you feel the throttle, this thing does take off like a rocket ship still. Okay, I've actually had enough of that now. Let's just press that and turn it off. Turn off. There we go. Am I going to live to regret doing that? That speed warning is really, really useful because it prevented me going more than, say, 2 kilometers an hour over the speed limit. And because most cars actually overread for safety, I probably wasn't actually going over the speed limit anyway. All right, Norwegian police? Okay, so this bit of road is in the middle of actually being resurfaced, so it's rougher. This is kind of what they're like in the UK, and that is really good. I'm getting minor vibrations, just like tickling my bottom a bit, which is strangely pleasant. Anyhow, it's things like this that is really making me feel that it is quite a difference That'd be interesting when we get to the end of this section, and we should have a little raised bit to go up onto the normal surface. So I want to know what the jolt will be like then. I'm not sure if this is supposed to be our route, but it's a bit strange for a manufacturer to take you over a surface such as this. But maybe that's the idea, to show off what they've done to their car. Now, as I'm building up speed, you're getting a bit of tyre noise, but considering the surface, this should be going, it's actually reasonably quiet in here. So to improve the sound deadening, as well as like changing the bushings and the suspension, adding extra soundproofing, they've also worked on the tyres to make them less noisy and also more comfortable. And they've done that while trying to maintain efficiency. And we'll check out the efficiency of this car in a bit. There was the bump as we joined the normal surface, and yeah, that was really quite smooth considering. In terms of handling, I haven't really had much of a chance to give it a go, but round that roundabout there, it still seems to have that kind of go-karty feel that the Tesla Model 3 has always had. It's quite a sporty drive, this car. It's one of the things I've always liked about it. In terms of the braking, they haven't done anything with that. And I've always liked the braking on the Model 3. Blimey, this guy's going for it. What's he doing? He thinks he's in some kind of Nordic rally. He absolutely dropped us there. Yeah, and the auto brake and stuff is working there as we slow down for him because of the cyclist. Will the system spot him? Yeah, look, spotted the cyclist. Let's try and drive into the back of him. Yeah, warnings. Now, if you're enjoying this video and you haven't done so already, please make sure you subscribe to this channel. And if you're a Tesla fan, you absolutely want to subscribe, because we've got something special, very, very special coming up with Tesla very, very soon, and you are not going to want to miss out on that. So make sure you're subscribed and hit the bell icon to turn your notifications on. That way you will be notified when I upload this very, very special video. I've been promised it, right? Rich from Tesla, if you're watching, we have high hopes. We have high hopes. Now, while Tesla has changed the look of this car, they've improved the aerodynamics. Apparently, it's now the most aerodynamic Tesla on sale. This is the CD figure, the drag coefficient of this car, and this is what it used to be. Now, that improves the efficiency, but also helps reduce wind noise. In terms of the motors, they're the same. So this is a dual motor car, so one up front, one at the back, and combined you got about 490 horsepower and 490 newton meters of torque. The acceleration is the same. It's 4.4 seconds to 60 miles an hour. The top speed is different though. So the previous generation Model 3 long range would do 145 miles an hour, whereas this one only does 125 miles an hour. The reason that they've decided to reduce the top speed is because in most parts of the world, apart from Germany, you can't go over like 70 or 80 miles an hour. So what they've done is gone for a slightly different tyre, which improves comfort and efficiency, and it's not designed to go quite so fast. So that's a sacrifice they've decided to make. And I think for most people, most of the time, that is the right choice. There's also been no change to this car's battery. So in this long range version, you have a 75 kilowatt hour battery pack. In the standard range, you have a 57 kilowatt hour battery pack. However, due to the improvements in efficiency, you should get more range. So the old dual motor car was supposed to be capable of doing up to 374 miles on a single charge, whereas this new one on the 18-inch alloy wheels is supposedly capable of doing 423 miles on a single charge. Now, towards the end of this video, I'm going to check what efficiency I've actually had out of this car over this little drive I'm doing in it. So we'll find out what the real world efficiency is that I'm getting from it today on this test. While we get on with that, what I'm going to do is use one of the new features on this car, and it is the ventilated seats. So they've now got perforations in them, and here in the front, the perforations aren't just for show. I am now blowing cold air up my backside and my lower back. Normally I like hot air blown at my backside, but today I'm going for cold air. Another thing I'm going to do while I'm driving along, actually I'm not going to do it, I'm going to get Lewis to do it because it's probably safer. Hit the car icon down there, and then I want you to go into lights. Then I want you to scan down and click that little colory icon there, and I want you to change the lighting in my door. Go on, just move that little cursor around, change all the lighting in the door there and on the dash. It's quite nice having this light bar across the front of the dash there, and this new bit of trim here, which you are going to be able to personalise. Also, the ventilation system is slightly different than before, so what I can do is actually switch off the fan for the passenger separate to the fan that's blowing air onto me. So if you've got a passenger that doesn't like to have like the air blown on them, you can actually disable it for them, or vice versa. But fortunately, Lewis does like to be blown. Don't you, Lewis? I hear it doesn't happen often. But you'll take it when you can get it, even if it's from the car. Poor Lewis is like shaking his head. Let's have a little look at Lewis. Another update that Tesla has made to this new Model 3 is to improve the stereo. You get the premium audio system on the Model 3 long range, and it now has 17 speakers, and they're busy telling us in the presentation about how much bass it's got. So let's have a little listen to it. I'll just bump up the stereo, turn it on. There is so much punch from the stereo. The bass is so intense that the speaker down by my ankle here is just like blowing my trouser leg. That is nuts and very loud. I don't think it's quite as good as the Burmester sound system you can get in the new Mercedes E-Class, and if you want to see my full in-depth video review of that car, click on the pop-out banner up there for the link in the description below. One thing that's really interesting is that despite all the upgrades and improvements that Tesla's made to this car, they're not going to alter the price. It's going to start from around the same £42,000 as the current car, which is very different compared to Tesla's competitors, which have been increasing the prices of their cars because of inflation. Now, it'll go on sale in Europe from October, in the UK sometime 2024, and as for the US, I don't even know. They haven't announced it. They're not even saying whether the US are going to get this new Model 3. I don't know why that is. Maybe because it's built in China, I don't know. And the Americans will only take them built out of Fremont. All right, let's just do a cheeky little U-ey. See how manoeuvrable the car is. Don't curb it. Yeah, we made it round. I think my bottom is cool enough now, so I am going to turn off the cooled seat because it's also a little bit noisy and it's kind of just spoiling just how quiet they've made this car. Speaking of which, I want to try it in the back seat because you always got a little bit more noise and a bit more bumps from the suspension from the back seat. So let's just swap drivers. I'm going to get Lewis to drive and I'm going to see what it's like in the very back. Before I do though, I think we should probably just pull over and check the efficiency of the car. So let's have a look at the trip. So where are we? Average energy consumption 136 watt hours per kilometre. And I've just been driving normally, so I'm going to have to do some maths to find out what that is in miles per kilowatt hour. Okay, so that works out to 4.57 miles per kilowatt hour, which is pretty blooming good. I mean, all the German cars that I've driven, say the i4 and the Mercedes EQE, don't get anywhere near that kind of level of efficiency. So let's see what that is when you multiply it up by the 75 kilowatt hour battery pack times 75. That's given me a range, a real world range of 342. It's not bad. It's not quite the 423, but it's 81% of the claimed range, which by my experience driving electric cars to see how far they go in the real world is a decent number. Now, if you want to see me compare the real world range of a bunch of electric cars, click on the pop-out banner up there for the link in the description below to watch my very special EV range test. You'll also be able to see what happens when the cars run out of electricity. Right, now what I'm going to do is jump into the back and see what it's like from the back seat. Tesla has actually revised the rear seats for this new Model 3. They've changed the geometry slightly to make them a bit more comfy. They feel slightly more reclined. I still don't think you get much under thigh support because the floor is quite close to the seat base, but it is an improvement. Also, they've changed this. Look, the armrest is longer. Cup holders there. Big difference though is this down here. Got a screen in the back. So look, there you go. You can see I can control things like the climate here, the sound system. I can also watch YouTube movies and play games on it as well. And we've got two USB-Cs there. Apparently the USB-Cs can charge it up to 65 watts. So you can charge a laptop off them. That's good. So just driving around town, there's less tyre noise I think here in the back than there was in the old Model 3. If I just show you here, you've now got acoustic glass here in the back, and also the rear window, this huge rear window, that is acoustic glass as well, which is helping with the noise reduction. I feel like the bumps are less noticeable here in the rear than they were before. It was really pronounced actually in the back seat compared to the front seat in the old Model 3. You did feel like you were in the cheap seats here in the rear, but now it's not such an issue. Material quality, well, the feel of the materials is slightly better than before. Once again, I don't think the quality of the materials are quite as nice as in a BMW i4. However, this car does beat the BMW in terms of its efficiency and its weight. It's a lot lighter. So this thing weighs in at under 1900 kilos. There hasn't been much of an increase in the weight over the previous car. In fact, it's pretty much the same. Whereas the BMW is quite a bit heavier, as is the equivalent Mercedes, the EQE. And in terms of like noise and comfort in the back, it's now up there with the Germans. Do you know what? This is all well and good, like saying how it feels, but what we need to do is an objective test. So I'm going to get my phone and we're going to check the sound levels now and the comfort levels. So let's do the tests. Let's get scientific. Right, so we're going to do the sound test now. Start at the same stretch of road, 70 kilometers an hour. So definitely less tyre noise. I can just tell it with my ears, and looking at the sound meter, it's just ever so slightly lower by 1 or 2 decibels on average. Not a massive difference in terms of numbers, but obviously decibels are logarithmic, so 1 or 2 decibels is quite a big deal actually. So the car is definitely quieter. My phone is not lying. Now we're going to redo the vibration test in the new Model 3. So we're on the same section of road. I'm going to start my vibrometer running and we'll see how well this car performs. Once again, Lewis is going to drive at 30 kilometers an hour and hunt out the drain covers. Go for it, Lewis. Whoops. Okay, so already I can see that it's, oops, slightly lower. There's not a huge difference in the numbers, but the graph isn't quite so shaky, especially when we go over the drain covers. Now what I'm going to do is just show you on screen the 2 vibrometer readings, and you can actually see that with the second reading, which is in the new car, this car, you can see that the lines are more consistently underneath the 5 mark. It's a small difference on my vibrometer, which isn't the most scientific thing, but you can see that the vibrations are slightly lower, as are the major impacts. Seems like they have definitely improved the suspension, according to my very scientific test. So then, what's my final verdict on the new Tesla Model 3? Should you avoid it? Should you consider it? Should you shortlist it? Or should you just go right ahead and buy it? Well, when you consider that the old Model 3 was still at the top of its game, this one is even better. So the verdict is easy. You should go right ahead and buy the new Model 3.